This is a story about how my 87-year-old mother decided to get rid of her pistol when she discovered that the guy who helped her get the gun had murdered his wife and hidden her body in the wall of their house. Now, did she immediately turn the gun over to the police? No, of course not. She asked me to get rid of the gun, but that was my mother. When something bad happened, she immediately washed her hands of it and turned the problem over to me. When her cousin Ada died, she sent me down to Florida to figure out how to get a signature from another cousin long dead to allow the burial. You'll figure it out, my mother said, but that's another story. This story started when my mother was working for IBM. She often worked late and hated walking through the parking lot at night. And at the time, she had this guy who worked for her, Jimmy Nichols. Jimmy was a little crazy and more than a little scary. Everybody thought so, even his wife, who once told a neighbor, "I wish he wouldn't keep the dead cat in the refrigerator." One day, my mother mentioned to Jimmy that she was afraid to walk in the parking lot at night, and Jimmy said, "You need a pistol. I can fix you up." Jimmy took her to get her permit and the pistol, and so there was my middle-aged mother walking around the IBM Poughkeepsie plant, packing heat in her designer purse. It was shortly after this that Jimmy's wife went missing. It was big news in Poughkeepsie. Housewife goes missing, husband says, "I don't know, I guess she ran away or joined a cult." And every single person who worked with Jimmy thought that he killed her. Imagine working 9 to 5 every day with a guy you are certain has murdered his wife. Years went by, during which, according to his neighbors, Jimmy's behavior got stranger and stranger, and his missing wife was never heard from again. Then one day, I was reading the Poughkeepsie Journal, and I came across an article about some contractors who found a dead body in the wall of a house. Wait, but was it all a dream? Could it be the same? I screamed. I called my mother. "They found Jimmy Nichols' wife," I cried. "Contractors found her in the wall of their house. Her body's been there for 28 years. My mother sighed and said, "Well, of course they did. We all knew that he killed her. Are you coming here? Can you get me some milk?" Now, this was not the first time my mother reacted ho-hum to murder news. Once when we were eating breakfast, I asked her about our cousin Maria, my favorite cousin of my mother's generation, a born humorist, as so many of the Sicilian women in my family were. I said, "Why did Maria never get married? She's so great. She's so funny." My mother peered at me over her New York Times and said, "Well, she did get married. It was a long time ago, before you were born." I said, "Really? What happened to her husband?" She said, "Well, he was shot." I said, "He was shot? Where?" She said, "In Palermo. I think they were on their honeymoon." I said, "He was shot in Palermo on their honeymoon? Why didn't you ever tell me this?" She glanced over her newspaper again and repeated, like I was a little slow to understand words, "It was before you were born." Ho-hum. But a year or so before she died, she started worrying about this gun. "I don't want it anymore. You need to do something about it," she told me. I needed to do something about it. So being a good daughter, I applied for a pistol permit. But then my mother died unexpectedly. The sheriff's office said, "Okay, bring it in. We'll hold it until the permit is approved." And when I brought in the gun, they examined it and said, "Something's not right here. The serial number on the gun doesn't match the one on the paperwork." I just laughed out loud. "Of course not. Thanks, Jimmy." My mother is gone now, so I can't ask her exactly where Jimmy got the gun. But that's my mother. She's moved on, but she's still giving me writing material from the grave. Love you, Mom.